Stories of the Prophets, 18. Story of Shammil, Samuel, peace be upon him. 1. The state of the Israelites after Joshua. Ibn Jarrah reported that the condition of the Israelites deteriorated. They committed many sins and killed whom they wished of the prophets. Consequently, Allah sent them tyrannous kings who ill-treated them and spilled their blood, and set their enemies from outside against them as well. They used to go to war, taking with them the Ark of the Covenant. They did this so that they would be victorious by its blessing, and it became a symbol of calm and a relic left behind by Moses' people. When they went to war with the people of Gaza and Ascalon, they were defeated because the Ark of the Covenant was captured from them. When the king of the Israelites heard of this, he died on the spot. The children of Israel remained like sheep without a shepherd until Almighty Allah sent them a prophet named Shammil. They asked him to appoint a king over them to lead them in a war against their enemies. 2. The Ark of the Covenant. According to Ibn Asakir, the Israelites believed their Ark of the Covenant to be very holy and an important symbol of their history. They carried the Ark even in battle and believed that, because of it, Allah would protect them from their enemies. This belief gave them peace of mind and great courage, and their enemies were terrified by it. Their enemies also believed that it was given special power by Allah. Gradually the Israelites started to ignore Allah's law, evil habits became part of their lives. Allah sent upon them an enemy, the Philistines, who defeated the Israelites, captured their ark, drove them out of their homes, and took away their children to use or sell as slaves. Their power was broken. They separated from one another and were very disheartened. 3. Samuel comes to the Israelites. Then came Prophet Samuel among them to bring some relief. They asked the prophet's help in appointing a strong leader, a king under whose banner they could unite and fight the Philistines. Prophet Samuel, knowing their weakness, told them, "I fear that when the time comes to fight you may refuse." But they assured him that they had suffered enough insults and were now ready to fight in the way of Allah, even if they lost their lives. Prophet Samuel prayed to Allah for guidance. Allah revealed to him that he had chosen one, Saul, Talut, to be their king. The prophet wanted to know how to recognize the future king. He was told that Saul would come to him by himself and that they should then hand over the control of the kingdom to him, for he would lead them in battle against the Philistines. 4. Saul is appointed king. Saul was tall and steady, pious, and very intelligent. He lived and worked with his father on their farm. One day, several of their donkeys were lost. Accompanied by his servant, Saul went in search of them. They traveled for many days and were very tired. Saul said to his servant, "Let us rather go back, for I am sure that my father will be worried by now. And the other animals must also be cared for." His servant suggested that as they were already in the land of Samuel the prophet, they should go to him to inquire about the lost donkeys. Saul agreed, and they carried on. On their way, they asked directions from some maidens carrying water. They were told to go in the direction of the mountain. Here, a vast crowd was waiting for the prophet Samuel. When Saul set eyes on him, he instantly recognized him as a prophet by his holy mien. So recognized Saul as the king that Allah had chosen for them. Saul greeted the prophet respectfully. When he asked about his missing donkeys, Samuel told him not to worry, his donkeys were already on their way to his father's farm. He then told Saul that Allah had chosen him as the king of the children of Israel. His duty would be to take charge of their affairs, to unite them under one banner, and to protect them from their enemies. If he carried out Allah's commands, he would be given victory. Saul was surprised by this sudden honor offered to him. It was also a heavy responsibility. He protested to the prophet that he was of the children of Benjamin, the least famous of the tribes of Jacob. He did not know anything of leadership or kingship and had no wealth. Samuel told him that it was the will of Allah that he should be the king, that he should thank Allah for his favor and be strong in faith. 5. Saul is appointed king, Deuteronomic. Taking Saul by the hand, Samuel led him to the children of Israel, but they insisted on a direct sign from Allah. Prophet Samuel told them to go outside the city to see the sign, which they did. Almighty Allah revealed, "Have you not thought about the group of the children of Israel after the time of Moses? When they said to a prophet of theirs, 'Appoint for us a king and we will fight in Allah's way.' He said, 'Would you then refrain from fighting, if fighting was prescribed for you?' They said, 'Why should we not fight in Allah's way while we have been driven out of our homes and our children, families have been taken as captives?' But when fighting was ordered for them, they turned away, all except a few of them. And Allah is aware of the Zalimin, polytheists and wrongdoers. And their prophet, Samuel, said to them, 'Indeed Allah has appointed Saul as a king over you.' They said, 'How can he be a king over us when we are better fitted than him for the kingdom, and he has not been given enough wealth?' He said, 'Verily, Allah has chosen him above you and has increased him abundantly in knowledge and stature. And Allah grants his kingdom to whom he wills. And Allah is all sufficient for his creatures' needs, all-knower.' And their prophet, Samuel, said to them, 'Verily, The sign of his kingdom is that there shall come to you at Tabut, a wooden box, wherein is Sakinah, peace and reassurance, from your Lord, and a remnant of that which Moses and Aaron left behind, carried by the angels. Verily, in this is a sign for you if you are indeed believers. Quran Ayah 2-246-248. 6. Saul leads an army, Quranic. Then when Saul set out with the army, he said, Verily, Allah will try you by a river. So whoever drinks thereof, he is not of me, and whoever tastes it not, he is of me, except him who takes thereof in the hollow of his hand. Yet they drank thereof all, except a few of them. So when he had crossed it, the river, he and those who believed with him, they said, We have no power this day against Goliath and his hosts. But those who knew with certainty that they were to meet their Lord, said, How often a small group overcame a mighty host by Allah's leave, and Allah is with the patient. And when they advanced to meet Goliath and his forces, they invoked, Our Lord, pour forth on us patience and make us victorious over the disbelieving people. Quran Ayah 2-249-250. 7. Saul leads an army. Saul set about organizing his army with strong faith and wisdom. He ordered that only men free from responsibilities should join. Those engaged in building homes, men who were about to be married, and those occupied with business should not join. After establishing a well-trained army, he decided to put them to the test. He told them that along the route they would pass a river where they should drink enough water to quench their thirst, but not more than that. To his disappointment, he discovered that the majority of them drank more water than they should have. He discharged them for disobedience and kept only the few who had obeyed him, as they were the ones who proved their sincerity. This resulted in a split in the army, but he was not bothered. He believed in quality and not numbers, better a small band of true believers he could rely on than a huge army of unreliable men. 8. Saul's army seized the enemy. Saul's men sighted the enemy on the other side of the river. Their opponents appeared physically strong and were armed with better weapons. They were led by the mighty warrior Goliath, known for his huge build and brute strength. A great number of Saul's men ran away on seeing this strong force. The small band that remained was willing to fight, whatever the outcome, for they had heard that there had been many incidents in the past in which Allah had caused a small force to defeat a larger one. 246. Have you not thought about the group of the children of Israel after the time of Musa, when they said to a prophet of theirs, Appoint for us a king and we will fight in Allah's way? He said, Would you then refrain from fighting, if fighting was prescribed for you? They said, Why should we not fight in Allah's way while we have been driven out of our homes and our children, families have been taken as captives? But when fighting was ordered for them, they turned away. All except a few of them. And Allah is all aware of the wrongdoers. Al-Baqarah 246. The story of the Jews who sought a king to be appointed over them. Mujahid said that the prophet, mentioned in the ayah 2-246 above, is Shammil, Samuel. Wahb bin Munabba said, the children of Israel remained on the straight path for a period of time after Moses. They then innovated in the religion, and some of them even worshipped the idols. Yet, there were always prophets sent among them who would command them to work righteous deeds, refrain from doing evil, and who would rule them according to the commands of the Torah. When they, Israelites, committed the evil that they committed, Allah caused their enemies to overwhelm them, and many fatalities fell among them as a consequence. Their enemies also captured a great number of them, and took over large areas of their land. Earlier, anyone who would fight the Israelites would lose, because they had the Torah and the Tabut, which they inherited generation after generation ever since the time of Moses, who spoke to Allah directly. Yet, the Israelites kept indulging in misguidance until some king took the Tabut from them during a battle. That king also took possession of the Torah, and only a few of the Israelites who memorized it remained. The prophethood halted among their various tribes, and only a pregnant woman remained of the offspring of Levi, in whom the prophethood still appeared. Her husband had been killed, so the Israelites kept her in a house so that Allah may give her a boy, who would be their prophet. The woman also kept invoking Allah to grant her a boy. Allah heard her pleas and gave her a boy whom she called Shammil, meaning Allah has heard my pleas. Some people said that the boy's name was Simeon, which also has a similar meaning. As that boy grew, Allah raised him to be a righteous person. When he reached the age of prophethood, Allah revealed to him and commanded him to call his people to him and to his Tawheed, oneness. Shammil called the children of Israel to Allah, and they asked him to appoint a king over them so that they could fight their enemies under his command. The kingship had also ended among them. Their prophet said to them, What if Allah appoints a king over you? Would you fulfill your vow to fight under his command? They said, Why should we not fight in Allah's way while we have been driven out of our homes and our children? Meaning, after our land had been confiscated and our children had been taken from us, Allah said. But when fighting was ordered for them, they turned away, all except a few of them. And Allah is all aware of the wrongdoers, meaning, only a few of them kept their promise, but the majority abandoned jihad, and Allah has full knowledge of them. 247. And their prophet said to them, Indeed Allah has appointed Talut, Saul, as a king over you. They said, How can he be a king over us when we are fitter than him for the kingdom? And he has not been given enough wealth. He said, Verily, Allah has chosen him above you and has increased him abundantly in knowledge and stature. And Allah grants his kingdom to whom he wills. And Allah is all-sufficient for his creatures' needs, all-knower. Al-Baqarah 247. When the Israelites asked their prophet to appoint a king over them, he appointed Talut, Saul, who was then a soldier. But Talut was not a descendant of the house of kings among them, which was exclusively in the offspring of Yahudah, Judah. This is why they said, How can he be a king over us, meaning, how can he be the king for us? When we are fitter than him for the kingdom, and he has not been given enough wealth, they said that Talut was also poor and did not have the wealth that justifies him being king. Some people stated that Talut used to bring water to the people, while others stated that his profession was dyeing skins. The Jews, thus, disputed with their prophet while they were supposed to obey him and to say good words to him. Their prophet answered them, Verily, Allah has chosen him above you, meaning, Allah chose Talut from amongst you while having better knowledge about him. Their prophet stated, I did not choose Talut to be your king on my own. Rather, Allah has commanded that upon your request. Further. And has increased him abundantly in knowledge and stature, meaning, Talut is more knowledgeable and honorable than you, and stronger and more patient during combat, and has more knowledge of warfare. In short, he has more knowledge and is stronger than you are. The king should have sufficient knowledge, be fair-looking and should have a strong soul and body. He then said, And Allah grants his kingdom to whom he wills, meaning, Allah alone is the supreme authority who does what he wills and no one can ask him about his actions, while they will be asked about their actions by him. This is because Allah has perfect knowledge, wisdom and kindness with his creation. Allah said, And Allah is all-sufficient for his creatures' needs, all-knower, meaning, his favor is encompassing and he grants his mercy to whom he wills. He also knows those who deserve to be kings and those who do not deserve it. 248. And their prophet said to them, Verily, the sign of his kingdom is that there shall come to you a tabut, wherein is sakinah, peace and reassurance, from your Lord and a remnant of that which Musa, Moses, and Harun, Aaron, left behind, carried by the angels. Verily, in this is a sign for you if you are indeed believers. Al-Baqarah 248. Their prophet then proclaimed, The sign of the blessings of Talut's kingship over you is that Allah will give you back the tabut, wooden box, that has been taken from you. Allah said, Wherein is sakinah from your Lord, meaning, peace, or grace, and reassurance. Abd-al-Razak stated that Qatada said, Wherein is sakinah, means grace. In addition, Arabi said that sakinah means mercy. This is also the meaning given by Ibn Abbas, as Al-Awfi narrated. Allah then said, And a remnant of that which Musa, Moses, and Harun, Aaron, left behind. Ibn Jarrah related that Ibn Abbas said about this ayah, And a remnant of that which Musa, Moses, and Harun, Aaron, left behind, meaning, Moses' staff and the remnants of the tablets. This is the same tafsir of Qatada, as Sudi, Arabi bin Anas and Ikrimah, who added, and also the Torah. Abd-al-Razak said that he asked Thori about the meaning of and a remnant of that which Musa, Moses, and Harun, Aaron, left behind. Thori said, Some said that it contained a pot of manna and the remnants of the tablets, while some others said that it contained Moses' staff and 2 shoes, and refer to 2012. Allah then said, Carried by the angels. Ibn Jurayj stated that Ibn Abbas said, The angels came down while carrying the tabut between the sky and the earth, until they placed it before Talut while the people were watching. As Sudi said, the tabut was brought to Talut's house, so the people believed in the prophethood of Shammil, Simeon, and obeyed Talut. The prophet then said, Verily, in this is a sign for you, testifying to my truth in what I was sent with, my prophethood, and my command to you to obey Talut, if you are indeed believers, in Allah and the hereafter. 249. Then when Talut set out with the army, he said, Verily, Allah will try you by a river. So whoever drinks thereof, he is not of me, and whoever tastes it not, he is of me, except him who takes thereof, in the hollow of his hand. Yet, they drank thereof, all, except a few of them. So when he had crossed it, the river, he and those who believed with him, they said, We have no power this day against Goliath, Goliath, and his hosts. But those who knew with certainty that they were going to meet Allah, said, How often has a small group overcome a mighty host by Allah's leave, and Allah is with us, Sabirin, the patient. Al-Baqarah 249. Allah states that Talut, the king of the children of Israel, marched forth with his soldiers and the Israelites who obeyed him. His army was of 80,000 then, according to As-Sudi, but Allah knows best. Talut said, Verily, Allah will try you, meaning, he will test you with a river, which flowed between Jordan and Palestine, i.e., the Sharia river, according to Ibn Abbas and others. He continued, So whoever drinks thereof, he is not of me, meaning, shall not accompany me today. And whoever tastes it not, he is of me, except him who takes thereof in the hollow of his hand, meaning, there is no harm in this case. Allah then said, yet, they drank thereof, all, except a few of them. Ibn Jurayj stated that Ibn Abbas commented, whoever took some of it, the river's water, in the hollow of his hand, quenched his thirst. As for those who drank freely from it, their thirst was not quenched. Ibn Jarrah reported that Al-Bara bin Azib said, we used to say that the companions of Muhammad who accompanied him on the Battle of Badr were more than 310. Just as many as the soldiers who crossed the river with Talut. Only those who believed crossed the river with him. Al-Bukhari also reported this. This is why Allah said, so when he had crossed it, the river, he and those who believed with him, they said, we have no power this day against Jalut, Goliath, and his hosts. This ayah indicates that the Israelites, who remained with Saul, thought that they were few in the face of their enemy who were many then. So, their knowledgeable scholars strengthened their resolve by stating that Allah's promise is true and that triumph comes from Allah alone, not from the large numbers or the adequacy of the supplies. They said to them, how often has a small group overcome a mighty host by Allah's leave, and Allah is with us, Sabirin, the patient. 250. And when they advanced to meet Jalut, Goliath, and his forces, they invoked, our Lord. Pour forth on us patience, and set firm our feet and make us victorious over the disbelieving people. 251. So they routed them by Allah's leave, and David, killed Jalut, Goliath, and Allah gave him, the kingdom after the death of Talut and Samuel and Al-Hikmah, prophethood, and taught him of that which he willed. And if Allah did not check one set of people by means of another, the earth would indeed be full of mischief. But Allah is full of bounty to the Alamin, mankind, jinn and all that exists. 252. These are the verses of Allah, we recite them to you, O Muhammad, in truth, and surely, you are one of the messengers of Allah. Al-Baqarah 250-252. When the faithful party, who were few under the command of Talut, faced their enemy, who were many under the command of Jalut, they invoked, our Lord, pour forth on us patience, meaning, send down patience on us from you. And set firm our feet, meaning, against the enemy, and save us from running away and from feebleness. And make us victorious over the disbelieving people. Allah said, so they routed them by Allah's leave, meaning, they defeated and overwhelmed them by Allah's aid and support. Then, and Dawood killed Jalut. Israelite accounts claimed that, Prophet David killed Goliath with a slingshot that he had, which he launched at Goliath, causing his death. Talut promised that whoever killed Jalut would marry his daughter and would share his kingship and authority. He kept his promise. Later, the kingship was transferred to Prophet Dawood in addition to being granted prophethood by Allah. So, Allah said, and Allah gave him, Dawood, the kingdom that Talut had, and Al-Hikmah, that comes with the prophethood, meaning, after Shammil. Allah then said, and taught him of that which he willed, meaning, what he willed of the knowledge that he bestowed on Prophet Dawood. Next, Allah said, and if Allah did not check one set of people by means of another, the earth would indeed be full of mischief. This ayah indicates that if it were not for the fact that Allah checks one set of people with another, such as when Talut and the bravery of Dawood helped the children of Israel against Goliath, then people would have perished. Similarly, Allah said, for had it not been that Allah checks one set of people by means of another, monasteries, churches, synagogues, and masjids, wherein the name of Allah is mentioned much, would surely have been pulled down. 2240. Allah then said, but Allah is full of bounty to the Alamin, mankind, jinn and all that exists, meaning, by His mercy and favor He fixes some of them by some others. Surely, Allah has the wisdom, the supreme authority and the clear proof against His creation in all of His actions and statements. Allah said, these are the verses of Allah, we recite them to you, O Muhammad, in truth, and surely, you are one of the messengers of Allah. This ayah states, these verses of Allah that we have narrated for you in truth conform to the exact manner that these stories have occurred and to the truth that still remain in the divine books that the scholars of the children of Israel have and know. Allah said, O Muhammad, you are one of the messengers of Allah, emphatically stating the truth of His prophethood.